Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Kansas City Profiles presented by Easton Roofing. Willie Wilson's baseball career is pretty easy to define. Over 2,000 hits, 19 years in the big leagues, almost 700 stolen bases, a World Series championship with the Kansas City Royals as well. Wrapped up his career with 4 years outside of the Royals organization, but certainly remembered as a Kansas City Royal. The other aspects of his life, his growing up, his childhood, his drug arrest and conviction in the early 1980s, and his life after baseball are a little bit more complicated. It's a story that's best left for him to tell. It's a fascinating one, and it comes your way next. Willie Wilson, an all-time Royal star on the field with a great story to tell about those times on the field, many that you haven't heard before he got to the Kansas City Royals, and an all-sport athlete who could have been perhaps a professional football player as well, all woven together in one really intriguing story, and it comes your way next on Kansas City Profiles, presented by Easton Roofing. I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing, and boy, we had to negotiate a million things in 2020, but Easton Roofing navigated them all. As 2021 rolls out, what should we expect this coming storm season?
Well, Danny, it'll be the same thing as it is every year. You know, the storms come, and you've got the guys out knocking on doors offering quote-unquote free inspections. Be wary as a homeowner. If somebody's knocking on your door, they probably need the work, and if they need the work that bad, they may be willing to do something untoward to get it. So if somebody knocks on your door, says they want to give you a free inspection, just tell them have a great day and give us a call. We'll come out for free and give you a good, honest opinion as to whether or not you need to do anything at all with your roof.
And what's the best way to get in touch with Easton Roofing?
You can always find us online at eastonroofing.com or give us a call at 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters. Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Vision's goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. It's time now to get some great assistance on healthcare with Chad Beisel from no-nonsense-healthcareninja.com. And Chad, even your business's name would indicate that you have a real aggressive way and an important way to go after some health insurance for your clients.
What I've found out in the industry is just a lot of people are really confused. They don't know what plans are good, what their plans offer, how they cover. And so I've just taken the approach of being really educated on what options are available to clients and showing them all the options that are available and making sure they understand them so they can pick and choose what options are good for them.
And one thing that's really important, of course, is access to doctors and hospitals.
Absolutely. That's becoming a big issue for a lot of people. Some of the plans out there are going to restrict those clients to where they can and cannot go. So if you live just outside the Kansas City metro, some of the counties outside, you may not be able to go to some of the hospitals up here in the Kansas City area. So making sure that you have a plan that's got doctors and hospitals and places you want to go is really, really important today.
Learn more by visiting no-nonsense-healthcareninja.com and let Chad help you. Firsthand, I have enjoyed the benefits of the CBD products from Canaway. My back feels better and better these days as a major part of my routine are the pain-relieving salve and the pure gold oil. And recently I had the pleasure of a treatment session using the Canaway CBD in conjunction with the Microlight 830 cold laser. The non-invasive treatment session worked wonders, and I could barely tell I was even being touched. TML 830 is the first 3B cold laser to get FDA approval, and in addition, the combination treatment with CBD is patent pending. The new smart laser is the only hands-free cold laser in the world and is used by athletic trainers, chiropractors, MDs, physical therapists, and veterinarians everywhere. You can learn more about all the great benefits from the complete line of Canaway CBD products by contacting my friend Sherry McCants at 515 515-208-6312. That's 515-208-6312 to get outstanding information about Canaway.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Willie, you were born in Montgomery, Alabama, and for the first 6 or 7 years of your life, you were raised by extended family. What are your first memories in Alabama before you moved to New Jersey?
Wow, I have a lot of memories of Alabama. I don't know about the first one, but I remember, my auntie, my cousins. I actually remember one time that, I got a piece of glass stuck in my foot, and the mailman took it out. So,
So everybody was pitching in, huh?
Well, it was, we lived in an all-black place down there in Montgomery, and it was called Jackson Heights, and everybody was black, the mailman was black, there was stores down on the end of the corners, and it was just, it was different, and I didn't know any better. So, when you're 5, 6 years old, you just go with the flow.
And neither of your parents were around at that point. I don't think you ever met your father. Is that correct?
No, I've never met my father, but my mom was around, but I didn't really remember.
Right.
I was really little. And so for me, my memory was my auntie, my Aunt Martha, and my Aunt Lula, and my Aunt Sally, and my Uncle Tim, and my grandmother. And so those were the family that immediately I knew. And then, of course, my cousin Ralph came in, and my cousin Michael. They were second and third after I was born of the aunties. So, those were my memories.
Now, right after the first grade, it was time to go north to New Jersey, where your mom was living, and she had been remarried, and you took a bus trip up and had never really met your mom. What was it like on the bus ride? What was your anticipation? What was your trepidation about meeting your mom?
Well, didn't really know I was going to New Jersey for the rest of my life or for a few years. I thought I was just going up to Jersey, and I remember being in the taxi, looking back at my cousins, and obviously my cousins and my auntie, they kind of knew what was going on. And it was my grandmother and my Uncle Tim and myself, and we went to Montgomery downtown, got on a Greyhound bus, which was double-deckers back in those days. And what I remembered most about the bus trip was the smell of gas. Now, that's really weird, but it was the smell of gas, the fumes. I got sick, and I can remember just laying my face down in my grandmother's lap pretty much the whole trip, and it was different, and it took a few days, and finally got to Newark, New Jersey, which was the train and the bus depot in Newark, and that's where I met my mom.
What was that like, and what was the What was that like? What was the adjustment for you?
Well, it was different because I didn't know that was my mom. I always thought my grandmother was my mother, and because she had took care of me for all those years, and I had looked at my grandmother, and she had told me, this is your mother. And I looked at her, and I can remember distinctly saying, no, you're my mother. And she said, no, sweetie, that's your mother right there. So, and then we kind of got in the car. We took my grandmother to one spot, and then I was with my mother and my stepfather and my little brother, who was about a couple months to 3 months old. So was really a shock going from all black to pretty much a mixed amount of people. And so I became very quiet as a young man, strictly because I talked different. I felt like I was different, and I was in a different environment. And what I found out up there was New Jersey, New York, boy, they don't play. And they don't really, let you get away with a bunch of stuff, and you got to earn a bunch of stuff. And there's a lot of games up there that people play. And so me being quiet, I was just always watching what was going on and trying to pretty much just make my way forward.
When did sports enter your life, and was that an important part of you sort of integrating yourself into a new society?
Well, sports kind of came in. It was always, we had a playground down there. It was only about maybe a 10-minute walk from my apartment building in Summit. And it was called Maybe Playground. And our motto was, maybe you win, maybe you won't, but we're going to fight afterwards if we lose. So we kind of, I learned to play sports, in that playground. I didn't really get involved into, I would say, organized sports until probably junior high school. That was 7th, 8th, and 9th grade.
Wow. And when did you feel like you had some aptitude? Obviously, you would grow into you're a big, strong guy. And when did you feel like you were pretty good at playing baseball, football, whatever you picked up?
It was, I don't know. I mean, I always felt like I was just playing sports there was a guy named Mr. Guida, Dominic Guida, and he was head of the recreation center. And he pretty much got me into sports because by 7th grade, I was just riding my bicycle around, and he had saw me play, and I guess in a couple, playground things. And because you're head of all the organizations around there, as far as that was concerned, he said, "Why don't you get off that bike and go and do something constructive?" And me being a smart ass, I go, "Well, what would you advise me to do?" And he goes, "There's a baseball team over there," and it was a summer league, and it was to between summer 7th and 8th grade. And he said, "Why don't you go over there and try out for that team?" So I just went over there, kind of just seeing what was going on, and there was a position open, catching. And so I ended up, in those days, it was first come, first serve. If you were there last year in that position, you were going to be in that position until you got into high school. And it was 7th, 8th, and 9th grade teams, summer teams. And so you were going to be there for a while. So catching was the only thing open that I thought I could start at. Didn't know how to catch, didn't really, I blinked my eyes a lot, so I ended up doing that, and I really liked it. You were always in the game. You had to keep your head on because you were calling signals. And back in those days, our coach didn't call signals. He let us call them, the catcher. And so I called the signals, and it was fun. And it was kind of nice to be able to set people up, and figure out their way they put their feet. If you're trying to hit the ball in right field, guy's trying to, he's trying to make his feet go this way. And if he's trying to pull, he's trying to make his feet go this way. And, I was always trying to counteract. So it was really fun, man. And so when I got drafted, I thought I was going to be a catcher, but every time I would finish a game, the guys on the bus would have to wait, and a scout would come by, and he'd go in the outfield and throw. And I'm like, I don't want. I'm not an outfielder, and I would throw like a catcher. And so eventually, that's kind of how I hurt my arm, because I had to throw like an outfielder and didn't have those kind of muscles, and eventually ended up having, my shoulder messed up. And so I played that off for about 10 years in the big leagues.
Right. Well, let's get back. We'll get to that in a little bit. When did you realize you were a fast person?
Well, I realized that catching. Really funny, man, because the guy would hit the ball, and the catcher would always have to run down to first,
right,
and back it up, and I would beat the guy's run. So I figured, and I'd have on catching equipment, so I figured I was pretty fast. So
right,
it was pretty funny. I would have you hear that and all that catching equipment stuff running down there, and I'd have to back up, and so if the throw was overthrown, I had to back up. So I figured if I can beat a guy that hit the ball, I was pretty fast.
No doubt about that. How about football? You obviously would become a very good football player, and football is a more organized sport. It's not a playground sport per se, but when did you realize you had some aptitude for that?
Same time. Between the same time, it was Mr. Guida, he was head of all the recreation centers, so he kind of got me interested and got me how I can get involved in it. And then we would play football, and, we do the same things. We'd have these little football games, and we had this field out there. There was 2 softball fields, 1 baseball field, and way up on the other end, it could be little kids playing football and soccer and all kind of stuff. So it was really kind of a big old park. And so it was there I learned how to play football, and that was fun. And I thought that I liked that better than baseball, because when I got angry, I could hit somebody. So, that made me feel good, and so but football was a tough sport, but it was actually the sport that I was going to go to college for.
Your mother got divorced again when you were in elementary school. What was it like being raised by a single mom? What the struggles with that?
Well, it's never fun. I think my brother was hurt more than I was, because it was his dad.
Right.
And so he actually went to live with my stepfather for a while, and then my mother finally got him back, and it was a little different once we all started living together. My grandmother eventually came back and stayed with us for a while, because it was her and my Uncle Tim living together, and they got an apartment right downstairs from us, and we were on the second floor and they were on the first floor. And so that was different until my Uncle Tim left to go to Vietnam, and then things got a little different then, and my grandmother started living with us.
What was
so
it?
It was difficult.
Yeah, I imagine so. And so when
it was difficult.
Go ahead.
Well, it was difficult because she was working for a lot of people, and my grandmother also was working too. And we were too young to really work, but we did do odd jobs, paper route. My mother would send me every summer. She would just about up until 7th, 8th grade, I would go back down south.
Right.
And I would go down there, and, that's one of the reasons I didn't play a lot of sports, in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, because I was going back down to Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And basically I was going back down there she was kind of teaching me some work ethics. where I kind of slop pigs and, picked some watermelons, and it was a little different. But, once I got back to Jersey, I really appreciated being back up there. So sports was kind of an outlet. So it was really rough for that part, but she sacrificed for us, and so, we were grateful, my brother and I, and my grandmother, she was real grateful because, she was born in the early 1900s, so whatever she got, she appreciated.
It comes time that you're going to have to make a decision. You thought about going, obviously, to the University of Maryland. You could have gone as a scholarship athlete there, but you also were a first-round draft choice, and so there was money to be had. What was that whole decision-making process when it came to deciding between going to Maryland and becoming a baseball player?
Well, the funny thing about that is that, I never thought, I never kept up with a whole bunch of sports. I never kept up with the major league or this and that. I was just so busy playing sports. And, we had a couple guys that went from our high school to college, and one guy named Johnny Mallory that ended up playing for the Philadelphia Eagles and the Atlanta Falcons. He was a football player. So, when I had to sign, I had my coach, Howie Anderson. One of his players, Gil Lauren, turned out to be a lawyer. So Howie had Gil do this for me for free. And so at that particular time, I had signed a letter of intent to go to Maryland. And the thing about that was the first guy I met in Maryland was Walter White. Walter White took me around in Maryland. And then years later, he's a Kansas City Chief.
Yep.
And then I'm a Kansas City Royal. So it was just weird how all that happened. But he was the reason I really loved Maryland. And I got a chance to go to Ohio State, meeting Archie Griffin, and I got a chance to go to Michigan and see all that 6,000 seat capacity. And, but Maryland fit my eye because Michigan carried 5 running backs and Maryland didn't. I had a chance, right?
Right.
So it was real hard for me. And then I loved football. I figured I was going to go to school 4 years and then come out, be a businessman, and go from there. And my mother even bought me a briefcase. So that was pretty cool. But as things got a little bit different, my mom, I became an All-American baseball player, and scouts were coming, and they were offering money, and it got to the point where they had fired my mom from work, not because she was doing a bad job. She did not want to miss my Thanksgiving football game. And she worked as a guard at this store, and she asked them if she had the time off. They said no, and she said, well, I'm not going to miss my son's game, and so she quit, or they fired her. One of the two. Anyway, she never told me until later after the game, but that made the decision a little bit easier for me for what I had to do. And so I figured if I signed a baseball contract, I get immediate money. I can help my mom. I can pay off my mom's bills. And if it didn't work out for me in baseball, I could still go back to college.
Right.
Because at that particular time, I was playing baseball. And if you're a professional in baseball and not in the other sport, then you could go play in the other sport at that particular time. And they also changed the rule where you had to get all the money within 2 years because you could draw the money out over the years and not pay as much taxes. But, of course, they want to get that. But it made it easier for me. And so when I did do that, the lawyer Gil Orn and my coach and everybody came with me to Kansas City, and we kind of did what we had to do, and turned out all right, I thought.
Yeah, I think so. 19 years in baseball. What was it like?
It had a few hiccups here and
Yeah,
there, but
yes,
turned out all right.
yes, indeed. What was it like? The transition to playing minor league baseball. It's not glamorous. You started off in Sarasota, and they worked your way up, obviously. But what was the adjustment like for you as a ball player?
Well, when I first had to leave to go down to, I think it was the first year of rookie ball, I went to Sarasota, Florida, got on the plane, and that was quite an adventure because the two guys that picked me up, it was called Newtown. It was between the airport and where the academy was. And they stopped off for like an hour. I don't even know what they were doing. And I'm sitting in the car going, what the heck am I doing in Sarasota, Florida at 18 years old, and I don't know what's going on. So that was the first adjustment, to find out that those guys are a little bit older. They were in AAA. Mm-hmm. So they had picked me up for some reason. I don't know why they did, but they were in AAA, and so they did. They picked me up. And finally I got there, and it was basically guys playing pool in the one room. The secretary had her office right in the front, and there was another room. It was like a dormitory, and it was like they looked at me like I was, I don't know, like an alien, because I was the number one draft choice. So they looked at me, and so from that point, it was like, okay, why are you number one and I'm not? And so it was like claws out. They were coming after me, man. So for me, it was about proving myself, not just to the Royals, but proving myself to those guys that were looking at me like, why are you number one? And it didn't start off great because I struck out in the beginning a lot. But there was a guy named Bill Scripture, and he was my first coach. And he was kind of a weird fella. He used to climb the light towers. The lights that are up on the stadiums, he would climb up there, hang out. He would take a baseball, and he had the strongest teeth and gums I ever, and he would pull the cover off a baseball with his teeth. And then, I'm serious, man, Sports Illustrated did something on him because he was just that weird, man. And, but he would do stuff, and he would say, if you're afraid of the ball, he would stand in the pitching machine and let the ball hit him in the chest. And I'm like, okay, this guy's nuts. But he liked me. And I think his assignment was to make sure I was okay. And he would take me, he would skeet shoot. And I would be the only guy in the car with him going to see him skeet shoot. And he would hit 99 out of 100. And this was tournaments.
Wow.
I mean, it was weird, man. And I was the only guy that he would give the station wagon to, the keys to take the guys uptown until curfew, because he trusted me to get back on time. So it was just a weird beginning to it. But he was such a good teacher of baseball that things that he did, and he knew people, and he knew what motivated me. And so I was an outfielder and never played outfield, and I was trying to play outfield, and he knew that. And he knew I threw like a catcher, and he knew I had to do different stuff. And so what he would try to do is motivate me with money. He'd go, take me out, catch fly balls, throw them in the second. He said, if you hit that bag on second base, I'll give you $5. So, as an 18-year-old kid, I'm trying to hit that bag. I want to see $5. You know what I'm saying? So he was always motivating me to do stuff differently, and he knew what I could do or could potentially do. And so that was the big thing for me. And then eventually, you know, I made an all-star team that first year, and I got moved up, and each year it was just something different. And each year it got tougher because the talent got better. I mean, like I look at it as a starting five on the starting five pitching staff. In a rookie ball, you might have, of the five, you might have one out of that five that's going to make the pros. Double A or A ball, you might have two out of that five.
Right.
And then in Double A, you might have three out of that five. And then in Triple A, you might have four out of that five. But when you get to the major leagues, it's 5 for 5.
Absolutely.
So the competition got better. So that meant that you had to, in my brain, sacrifice. So I didn't go out. I didn't go anywhere. I just wanted to make it to the big leagues and play baseball. And then, you know, I did. So when I try to tell young kids you have to sacrifice, they look at me like, what planet are you from, right? What do you mean I got to sacrifice? And I'd say, you know, I didn't go out with women. I didn't go out and do nothing. I just went and played ball to do what I had to do. And I think a lot of that was from my mom sending me to Alabama. And the work ethic that they made me do, it carried over to what I had to do to get to where I needed to be.
Well, part of that process was your last year in the minor leagues. The decision was made to have you switch hit. I mean, that cannot be an easy thing. You're a right-handed hitter, obviously, and had to learn to hit left-handed.
Yeah.
And left-handed is when you're going to get your most at-bats, too, in that particular setting. What was your reaction when they said they wanted you to be a switch hitter?
Well, first of all, I thought I had a shot at making the squad. I mean, I had a really good spring coming out of Double A in the big leagues. I mean, I had a really good spring. And I thought I had a shot, but of course, the only guy that's ever had a shot before when I was coming up was Al Towns out of Double A. And so, you know, there's probably been more guys, but at that particular time, he was the only one with the Royals. So we kind of knew if we weren't in AC's category, we weren't going to make it. So I was told to switch hit. And basically because hitting 250 or 270 at the most was not going to work right-handed for them. They wanted me at 300. They knew I was fast. And they wanted me to steal bases. So for me, you know, I didn't think of it, and it's really funny, I didn't think of it as punishment. My thought was, they're trying to help me get to the big leagues. So if I get my mind right, and if I go about it the right way, that's going to get me there quicker. And that's how I kind of thought about it. So what I did was every morning spring training, Chuck Heller and myself, we would go down to the hitting cages. And while guys were exercising for 45 minutes, we would hit. And I would hit so much that my hands looked like they had big pads on them, like a boxer and stuff like that. I mean, that was just sore, and it was just hit, just keep hitting until it became like it was almost natural for me to hit left-handed. So when I took off the spring training to go to AAA, Whitey, was it Whitey Herzog? Was he the manager then?
I
can't think. It was either Whitey or it was Jack McKeon. One of those two guys. I think it was Whitey. Yeah, because it was 76.
6, right.
76, 77. So he goes to me, he goes, even if you hit 180, just keep trying. So I said, okay. So I went up there and I got to AAA first at bat. I kind of, I didn't really do too much. And then I can't remember what game it was at the beginning of the season, but, everybody has a scout report on you, and they all knew I was just starting to hit left-handed, right? And this guy, I can't think of his name, he threw a pitch inside at me, and I didn't know which way to go. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
When you're right-handed, you fade into it, and you're left-handed, you fade into it. But I was on my left side, and I didn't know which way to fade right away, right? So I just stopped still, and I screamed, ah! And I could hear the ball go past my head. And he started laughing. And it just pissed me off. Instead of getting afraid, I got mad. And he threw the next pitch, and I said, I don't care where it's at, I'm swinging at it. And I hit it down the left field line. It hit this thing, popped to the left, and popped to the right. And as they were trying to pick that ball up, I was halfway in between second and third, and that was my first inside the park home run.
Wow.
And then I was like, maybe this can work. And that's how I got confident. And I just tried to hit everything to left field, everything.
Well, it obviously did work, and eventually you would make it to the major leagues a little bit at the end of 77 and then into 78, played part-time there, but then you kind of got off and running. When did you feel that you had reached a comfort level in the major leagues and started to have real success?
Well, I was kind of pissed off in 78 because in 78 I started my first 18 or 19 games, and I was doing well. I think I was hitting 298. But at that time, that was the first time I found out about politics in baseball. Clint Hurdle was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Whitey Herzog had given him the praise and the thumbs up, and he had taken over for John Mayberry at first. But Clint was not a first baseman. He was a right fielder. And so, when he didn't do what he was supposed to do, why take the other rookie out and play the guy on the cover? So I had to sit there for a while, and it really irked me that I knew that I was better in my brain. Might not hit more home runs, but I was better than him in my brain. Mm-hmm. Might not have worked out, but in my brain. So the first time we went to Baltimore, my mom was supposed to come down, and I wasn't playing, and that was the day I found out I wasn't playing. And so I kind of stood out there with my hands folded, pissed off, and balls are flying all around. And Hal McRae, old Mr. Wisdom, he comes in and he goes, "Hey, man, you see that glass up there?" And, like in the press box, all that, the owners and all that. And he goes, I go, "Yeah," he does. They can see you, what you're doing. And if you don't want to chase any balls, we can go find another, the big N word, to go do what you're doing standing right here. He says, if you're pissed off, he says, when you get your chance next time, and you're going to get a chance, he says, don't ever let him take you back out. And I thought about that for about a minute. Next ball hit, I was chasing it. And I just chased him, and I chased him, and I chased him, and I chased him. I chased him all the rest of the year. And then the next year, I think it was May of 79, All the outfielders are hurt. Everybody's hurt. Amos is hurt. AC, he just got hit in the jaw by Ed Farmer. Everybody's hurt, right? Only guy left in there is me. I'm just sitting there. We're in Texas. AC just got hit in the jaw. All of a sudden, Whitey's pacing up and down the dugout, right? He looked over at me and he goes, grab the glove and go to right field. And the first thing that popped in my head was Hal McRae. Don't ever let them take you back out. And I went out there, and I think for the next 2 or 3 months, I think I hit 352 or 354. And that was the beginning of me getting confidence and saying to myself, they're never going to take me back out.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
It's time to visit once again with Dr. Brad Woodle of Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. And Dr. Brad, your group has reached a significant milestone in receiving a prestigious award.
Danny, we've been honored for the 10th year in a row to receive the 5-Star Service Award from Integrity Doctors. And what this means is that all of our offices throughout Kansas City have made sure to give people excellent chiropractic and acupuncture care, be on time, and do a very complete and thorough job, and have great responses back from patients.
I know firsthand because I was just treated, for instance, today by you. You have a wide range of fantastic services.
Absolutely. Chiropractic, acupuncture, physiotherapies, rehab, anything that you need to keep you well in bones, muscles, joints, and nerves.
And I can't say how much it's benefited me in the time I've coming here. Upwards of 2 years, my back has improved 100%. And you can have that same kind of treatment too. For more information and your chance for a healthier way of life, visit asfca.com/Danny today.
Hi, everybody. This is Matt Llewellyn from 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence. I just want to thank everybody for supporting local restaurants during this time of uncertainty. 23rd Street Brewery is now open until this pandemic is over. And right now, more than anything, local restaurants need your help and support. Come on out and see us. 23rd Street Brewery is open now from 11:30 till 9 o'clock for dine-in and carry-out. And whatever we can do to help you out, maybe with your catering needs, too. I appreciate all the support, and thank you for continuing to shop local.
I'm here with Tim Emerson, the owner of Emerson & Company. And Tim, give us an idea of the range of services that you provide from Emerson & Company.
At Emerson & Company, we do credit card processing, payroll services. We do bookkeeping, merchant accounts like point-of-sale systems.
What would you say differentiates you from other companies in the field, and what makes you special?
I think what makes us unique is that we're a small local business making regional decisions on companies. We create a profile for the business and then put it out to our different vendors in a very competitive environment and tailor those needs to the specific business, which usually ends up in a great fit or great result for the company.
And, of course, the idea is to save money, right?
Save money, and actually sometimes I'm surprised where actually a solution that may cost a little bit more ultimately does save money, but we're not conditioned to think like that sometimes.
Emerson & Company. Check them out at emerson-co.com or call them at 816-360-9092. Most of us have experienced auto accidents, and it's no fun. And even less fun is trying to work on the insurance aspects afterwards and getting full value after an auto accident. I'm here with David Cowan from RecExpert.com. And David, you have an unusual and important niche for people after an auto accident.
We have a passion to teach car wreck clients what they deserve. Getting your car repaired only fixes the damage and the paint. Getting paid for your car's loss in value is called diminished value. Chances are you've never heard of this before because most people aren't looking out for you. We help people collect thousands to tens of thousands of dollars for their car's loss in value after the wreck.
And if somebody wants to come to you for that, what's the original assessment cost them?
We offer a free review of any insurance claim to see how we can help.
You can't beat that. Great expertise and assistance in getting full value after an auto accident from David Cowan. Visit RecExpert.com and learn more. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Our guest is Royals all-time great Willie Wilson, and that 79 season started a stretch of 4 straight years where you hit 300. That first year you were a regular, you stole 83 bases, and one thing I was noting is that, a lot of people stole bases at that time, and a lot of people stole a lot of bases. They'd steal 45, 50, but a lot of people would get caught a lot too. For however many bases you stole, which was a bunch, you didn't get caught very much. I mean, for instance, you stole 83 that year, and you only got caught 12 times. That percentage is about where you were at your entire career.
Yeah, I wanted to steal more bases, and it was, for me, it wasn't about personal records. We were winning, and winning, you have to help each other out. And if I was to steal a base with 2 outs, with George Brett coming up,
right?
Okay, if I steal a base, what do you do on the best hitter on our team?
You walk him.
You walk him, right? So now, instead of going personal, I'm going to sit right here because now you got to pitch to George Brett. I can score on a double. So for me, that kind of slowed my base stealing down because I started thinking about how we could win, how we can't win if I'm doing this and if I'm doing that as far as on the field. And so for me to protect George and for me to help George, I needed to stay there. So, stealing bases was something I loved doing. But once I got to 83 and the next year I did 79, I had to drop it down. Not because I wanted to, it's because it was helping the team. We all helped each other out. Frank helped me, when Frank was hitting second. Yale helped me when he was hitting second. And Hal helped me when he was hitting second. There was a lot of guys. We helped each other. And Frank and I always had this thing where I just touched my helmet a certain way, and he knew I was gonna go on the next pitch. And Frank was good at hitting behind the runner, and so was Hal. And so, it was just real, what we needed to do. But I wanted to win more titles. I had a chance to win, Harold, he put MLB Network.
Harold Reynolds.
Right, Reynolds, he won it that year with 60, and I had 59. And we came into the last day, and he stole a base, I stole a base, and me and Gary Thurman, we did a double steal. And so all of a sudden, it was like the 7th or 8th inning, we scored a bunch of runs. And so in my brain, I got to shut it down because we're beating the crap out of them.
Mm-hmm. It's
the last game of the year, and they're going to pay me back next year if I start stealing. But I never thought about, well, they probably know you're trying to break a record too, right? But I never thought about that. I was just thinking about next year, they're going to hit me if I do this and do that, stealing with a 6-7 run league. That's the mentality we had back then. And so Harold won it. And so I'm like, that was the only other one I think I could have won.
Right.
Because Ricky came into the league, and after that, it was all over because Ricky, he could steal bases, and I know him enough, and I played with him for 2 years. It was personal for him.
Right.
It wasn't about a team thing. It was just personal. So that was all over on the stolen bases, though.
You had that great run of seasons, but at the same time, you obviously would have some personal issues that caused you to end up having to go to jail and get suspended.
Yeah.
But you bounced back from it. You're playing great ball. It was a time when cocaine was very prevalent in the game. How did that all go down, and how did you start to get involved in that?
Well, it's something that I'm not very proud of, but coming back, I'm proud of.
Right.
You know, it happened. I just think it was the 80s. And there's some people I know that didn't get caught up in it, you know. And, you know, if I wanted to write a book on that part, there'd be some major leaguers that, you know, just did get caught in it. It was the 80s, man, and I think everybody was pretty much doing it. But at that particular time, I had kind of stopped. You know, I said to myself, you know, I've done enough. This isn't going anywhere. And I stopped. And then, of course, after the Al Cowens, I hate to, you know, bring that up now. He's gone and he's left us. But he came to town playing with Seattle. He messed around and asked me, did I know anybody? Of course I did. Right? So I called. Well, the guy said, no. But I didn't know that his phone was being tapped.
Right.
So I called him for probably 30 seconds. Then that was it. So we went to New York. After that, and then I think I hurt my shoulder. I dove for a ball in New York. Going to the doctor after we got home, I kind of went through a yellow light, and I thought, you know, this car behind me kind of came through the red light. I was like, wow, the car just ran a red light. I get to the next light, I stop. That car that ran the red light pulls up by me and pull over KBI. And I'm like, wow, man, what's going on? And then they start telling me, we have you on tape. And, you know, they started telling me stuff that they thought I was doing. But I was like, hey, man, I don't sell this stuff. I don't know who sells it. They were just trying to get information out of me.
Right.
So it hit the radio, of course. I go to the doctor and get back to the stadium, and all of a sudden I hear, you know, a prominent royal. That's the funny part. Has been, you know, caught up in this. And I'm thinking to myself, who's the prominent royal? Like, I mean, that's how stupid I was as far as, like, I'm like, who the hell is that guy? Like, who, you know? So anyway, I get there, and then, you know, it's like I got to go to see shareholders and all of that. So it's all going through the locker room. So it's just got to the point to where, you know, they said, okay, we know that it wasn't for you. And I go, yeah. They said, but because you called, that would be a distribution, right? Mm-hmm. So now you got to say it's yours so that you won't be charged for distribution. So I said it was mine.
Right.
And so it all got to the point to where, you know, hey, and then I had, I don't know how many signatures, because nobody had ever gone to court or gone to jail for calling and thinking about it. First guy that ever did it, me.
Right.
Everybody else got probation. Everybody else got this. I went to a guy in New Jersey when I went home that, you know, before the trial. I'm talking to a lawyer, and he goes, you just should get probation. I'm talking to the DA. The DA says, we recommend probation. Everybody recommended probation except for the judge. Found out the judge, he was kind of a frustrated athlete, man. And so he put us in a higher ranking than everybody else. And he said to me, he goes, I got people downstairs that have committed murder that don't get this much attention. And I'm like, you're blaming me?
Right.
For getting this much attention? I mean, hey, man, I don't want the attention either. You know, I'm saying this to myself. And he says, so this is what I'm going to do. And he goes, I'm going to give you a year in jail. And all I heard was a year. And I yelled, for what? I didn't do anything. But he said, I'm going to suspend 9 months. I had to do 3 months. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know, it's like Christmas, New Year's. So when I get out, I got to go through all the other stuff. You know, people calling you this, people calling your names. And what it really did was, you know, I did this, I did that. I'm good with it. You know, it was part of my life. But when people look at you, and they don't look at you as a human because you play sports, they put you in a different category. So kind of they take out a lot of frustrations on you. Those same people that do and have did the same thing that you went to jail for. And the thing that used to get me would be the guy in the stands. He's got beer in his hand, and he's guzzling that beer, and he's drunk as a skunk, and he's yelling at me for cocaine.
Right.
Now, that one used to make me laugh. But it just shows you that, hey, man, I just know that I'm older now, and everybody makes mistakes, but you got to fess up to what you do. And if you fess up, then you can move on and do what you need to do. And so that's what happened. And so I feel better about myself. I feel better about a lot of other things. And at that time, when things are going wrong, everything goes wrong. Shit, I went bankrupt. You know? I mean, it's like everything goes wrong. I got divorced. You know, I mean, it goes wrong. And so when you figure that out, you got to put yourself around positive people. And that's what I've been trying to do for the last, I don't know how many years, God.
26 years, yeah, I guess, since you checked in.
Yeah.
But you played for a long time after your jail time and your suspension, and, you know, 19 years in the major leagues. What was, after that, you sound like that, you know, maybe it was more difficult to play. The fans looked at you in a different way. What was the rest of your career?
It was difficult.
Yeah.
It was difficult to play because the easygoing, happy-go-lucky guy that everybody caught in the beginning became angry, not very trusting of not just people, reporters, the front office, just not very trusting because you know what they have done in your brain, and so you're not trusting. You're just kind of, you know, walking on eggshells. Every time you do something, somebody says something, I'd have a cold or I'd go like this, right? And
right.
Coke. I mean, it was just, you know, so mentally, it got to me, you know, mentally. And so I think the best thing that ever happened to me was I moved away to Canada for 6-7 years. And it just got to the point to where, you know, I was away from everything. And then when I came back, I was prepared to come back to take the heat.
So you had such a fantastic career, but then, you know, when you're looking back on it, obviously there are these things there, and then you make the transition after 1994. You check yourself in, you get clean, but you have to sort of restart, and you know, bankruptcy and trying to restart your life. A lot of people might be curious. You signed a lifetime contract at one point with the Royals. Mm-hmm. What were the parameters of that, and did that kind of keep you going when you had difficult financial times, or how was that?
No, man.
Or did they pay it off? Yeah, it went away.
was went away after I got divorced because Mr. K, at that particular time, Mr. K didn't make those deals. Mr.
Fogelman.
Mr. Fogelman he was the land tycoon. So he had lost a bunch of money in that Black Monday or Tuesday or something like that. So Mr. K wanted to get rid of all that. And the only guy he really kept on that, I think, was George, maybe Quiz.
So he bought the contract out, per se.
He bought the contract out,
yeah.
So that didn't have anything to do with that. But, hey, man, there's things that go wrong. There's a lot of people who have lost money. I mean, people that have lost money that end up being billionaires or millionaires. If you don't know anything about a loss, you don't really appreciate what you got. So for me, I lost, but I didn't lose faith. I didn't lose my brain, and I didn't lose my health, and I didn't lose my work ethic.
Absolutely.
So from that, I think that has helped me get my life together. And, I've been happy for years, man. I mean, years. And it just gets to the point where it gets easier. I wish I had more money. No, I don't have it. But I'm not broke. And my kids are happy. I'm happy. And what I want to do is hopefully kind of make the Royals happy, man. I mean, I've been sitting here kind of looking at all the moves, and, I get all the stuff in the emails about what the Royals are doing. And then I kind of look at all those owners they got right now, right? They got a bunch of owners right now. What, 17, 16,
right.
18?
Patrick Mahomes.
Right. They got all kind of businesses, right? Every owner pretty much got some kind of business. For us alumni, us Hall of Famer alumni, those businesses, they can't use the new guys all the time, right? Mm-hmm. They can use us. There's guys at Dennis Leonard, Amos Otis, John Mayberry, Freddie Patek, myself. There's McFarland. Those are guys that are alumni, but the Hall of Fame guys, they're there. Use us. Make us ambassadors. Let us go help your businesses. Let us advertise for the Royals. Let us help you. Okay? So that's what I think about, how I can be productive in that manner with the Royals. I don't want a coaching job. I don't want to go mess with anybody in the front office. I'm just looking at ways that us alumni can help the Kansas City Royals. And if you're a good business person, you can see that right now. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
There's things that you could do. And so I just think with all those owners up there, somebody's got to come up with something that can help out the alumni. We don't have to be the Chiefs, but there's with the red jackets and all that. There's guys that they could hire to do certain things that help them, especially now when, you got this stuff going around. There's not a lot of minorities in Kansas City Royals organization, if you really kind of think about it. So if you want to get to the minority population in Kansas City, you got to use some minorities, man. You can't just mess around and just use the new guys. The new guys, they're too busy.
Right.
They're playing.
Absolutely.
Use the alumni. That's kind of my message on this podcast to the Royals. Make sure they hear that, will you?
well, you live out in Arizona now, or spend a lot of time there, and you play a lot of golf, and that's been something that's sort of a passion for you. Is that something that? How did you develop such a passion for golf? And obviously a competitor wants to continue competing.
Well, it's kind of like if you're addicted to something, okay, like people that do drugs know what I'm talking about. you're addicted to drugs, you're going to look forward to the drugs, and you're going to be addicted to it, right? So golf is my drug. I'm addicted to it, man.
Right.
And, you know, anybody with some kind of addiction, they know what I'm talking about. So I love it. I love every aspect of it. I wish I would have played it when I was a teenager, or even a small child, but it wasn't. It probably wouldn't have been the same love I have for it now. But I love it, man. I love the way you can move the ball. I love the way that the grass smells. I love the way that it's the morning dew, the animals, the green, the sunshine, sometimes even the rain when it's not too cold. But I just love it, man. And for me, it keeps me out of trouble. Keeps my mind occupied. I can go play golf 4.5, 5 hours. When I come home, I'm tired. I don't want to go anywhere else. All right? So that's another reason I play it, because it just keeps me from getting in trouble. And I feel like now that is way past my brain. That doesn't even come into the focus, getting in trouble. I just love golf.
Yeah, absolutely. You sound like you're in a good place, and you can reflect in the proper way and bring some lessons to other people. I know you do some golf tournaments that focus on trying to raise money to fight addictions and things like that. So it sounds like you are in a good place in your life.
Yeah, I am, man. I don't want to sound like I'm really religious and stuff like that, but I'm really spiritual. And the thing is, man, God puts stuff out there for you, all right? And he gives you an option. I like to tell my kids this story all the time when they kind of look at me crazy, and I go, there's a guy on the roof, it's raining. Guy comes by in a boat, all right? Water's there, and the guy gets in the boat. A guy sits in the boat, he says, hey, man, you want to get in the boat? And the guy goes, God won't let me die. Water gets all the way up to his neck. Guy comes by in the boat. He says, man, get in the boat. God won't let me die. Water goes all the way to his nose right there. Guy comes by in the boat. He says, get in the boat. He says, oh, God won't let me die. All of a sudden he drowns, goes up to heaven. And he said, God, how come you let me die? He said, I sent you 3 boats. Sometimes you got to see what's in front of you and then just go and take advantage of what God put there in front of you. And if you can't see it, that's when you're in trouble. He's telling you right there. Boom. He's putting it right in front of you. Boom. You can make a left turn or you can make a right turn. It all depends on what turn you want to make. And that's how I look at it, and that's how I tell my kids, man. He sent you 3 boats. So I don't want to sound spiritual, like religious, but I'm really spiritual, and I just feel that God gave me a little bit of a problem, and he told me that once it was over, it was going to be a little bit better, but I had to go through a little bit before it got better so I can appreciate this part of my life. And that's pretty much where I'm at. And to answer your question, yeah, I'm happy, man.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.